What is up, NFL fans, and welcome back to another episode of the NFL Whip Around. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Coach Kevin Smith as we try and wrap our brains around the divisional round games. Crazy. What's up?
What a weekend of football. The NFL is certainly getting what it wants out of this playoffs. This has been one of the more compelling playoff seasons I can remember.
It's also been one of the more head-scratching that I can remember, whether it's from an officiating standpoint, coach's decision standpoint, just overall play. I mean, we'll talk about all of it in this show, but let's start off with the divisional round in and of itself. When you're talking about how things played out in the divisional round, Coach, was there anything that you saw this past weekend, Saturday or Sunday, that surprised you, whether it was in a positive way, negative way, doesn't matter? What's your take there?
I was a little bit surprised at the result in San Francisco, Seattle. I don't think anybody foresaw a 41-6 blowout, but it was just how much better Seattle looked. And maybe this is just the attrition finally catching up with the 49ers, that they just got so banged up, and you just keep pulling one star after another out of the lineup, and eventually you're going to pay the price for that. And now going up against arguably the best team in the NFL, it all comes to a head. But I thought Seattle just looked like on another level from every team in the playoffs right now. I mean, I think I sent some tweet out and I said, they're playing with that look of the team that wins it all. That tends to happen every once in a while in the postseason, where if you don't have a dominant team like the Patriots were for so long, or maybe the Chiefs, that one team throughout the postseason will start to separate itself from the pack. And I think that's Seattle right now.
I've said it for weeks, Coach. There's something off with San Francisco. Like, it didn't match the eye test. We talked about it last week, actually, when we previewed the upcoming games, and it just seemed like it just kind of finally fell apart. It just fell apart. I'm going to go where I was surprised. How bad did C.J. Stroud look against the New England Patriots? Let me read his stat line for those that maybe don't remember, whatever. He was 20 for 47, throws the ball 47 times, completes 20 passes, 212 yards. He averaged 4.5 yards per attempt, touchdowns 1, interceptions 4, was sacked 3 times for a rating of 28.0. I don't know about you, Coach, and I know that that's their guy, it's their franchise quarterback. At halftime, I probably would have gone up to him and said, "You turn it over again and I'm yanking you," because Davis Mills won us 5 games. And right now you're losing us this game. I don't know. What's your take on Stroud? He's regressed after his rookie year.
He didn't look very good against Pittsburgh in the wild card game either. He turned it over 3 times, kept dropping snaps. I don't know what that is. Is it happening too fast? Right? Are things now beginning to muddy in terms of his ability to read coverage? He had Bobby Slowick as his offensive coordinator his rookie year. Bobby Slowick had come from that 49er system under Kyle Shanahan, and he did really well in that first year. And then not as much in the second year, and they fired Bobby Slowick. And now it feels like he has either plateaued or, as you suggested, regressed. Does he need a new voice? Does he need somebody that can help him reset his mental approach to the game? Because it feels to me, when you're dropping snaps, that's because your eyes are already, you're hurrying, you're rushing, you're trying to get your eyes onto the defense faster than you should. And that suggests to me that there's some processing issues going on with CJ Stroud.
I mean, the offensive line is an issue, and I'm not about to say that he's not under duress. He was hit 9 times, sacked 3. I mean, those sacks also count as quarterback hits, but that's neither here nor there. I just watched that game, and I'm watching the Patriots and I'm watching the Texans, 2 very good defensive teams, and I can't not see that C.J. Stroud is being outplayed by Drake May by leaps and bounds. And the Texans defense has to be standing on the sideline saying, now you're giving up points. You're throwing a pick 6. If you don't throw a pick 6, man, we're going to stop these guys. And it had to be such a deflating loss for them. The New England Patriots win 28-16. I don't know about you, Coach, but for me, the story in this game is not, wow, how impressive the Patriots are. It was, goodness gracious, what is going on with CJ Stroud? What was your takeaway from this one?
No, that's a good take on the Patriots. I give them a ton of credit for what they've been able to do in Mike Vrabel's first year there. But they've been living a bit of a charmed life. You know, they played the weakest schedule in the NFL. They've won a lot of games against bad teams. They create their own opportunities and then they take advantage of them. You have to give them credit for that. But now, now they're going to get the gift of going out to Denver to play Jared Stidham.
Jared freaking Stidham.
Yeah. I would think if New England wins this AFC Championship game and goes to the Super Bowl, that whomever they play, they will be a significant underdog.
Absolutely. I was texting with some friends and we all said when we saw that outcome and just the way things are playing out, like the NFC's winning this no matter what happens. It just feels that way. Now, granted, we've seen things change. And so let's go to that Bills-Broncos game before we talk about the NFC. I know you brought up the 49ers and Seahawks, but there was another phenomenal game on Sunday afternoon evening. Bills-Broncos ends in overtime, 33-30. The Bills lose. We'll talk about Sean McDermott losing his job as the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. The Broncos win, but they lose Bo Nix to an ankle injury. It's going to sideline him for the rest of the season. This was a really weird game. We'll talk about the officiating, which unfortunately is a talking point. I've always said that I love crapping on the NFL's officiating, but I also don't want it to be a talking point. I don't want us to have to sit here on a Tuesday and say, or a Monday and say, wow, like this was a great game, but wow, this was a great game, but was that really a catch? Was that really an interception? Did they rule this the right way? They still don't know what a catch is, coach. It's 2026. I don't know. What was your takeaway from this game?
Well, the officiating was huge. And again, we're going to get to that. But Josh Allen turned the ball over 5 times. Yeah. You can't turn the ball over in big games. And this is a big reason why Sean McDermott is out right now in Buffalo, because the Bills, they couldn't put together their best football in the postseason. They had some playoff games where Josh Allen was absolutely lights out, but then they'd lose 42-36 to the Chiefs, and because the defense would fall apart. Unfortunately, in this one, I didn't think the defense played that badly. I thought that they kept Denver from running away after turning the ball over time and time again. They just kept squandering opportunities when they had the ball and creating opportunities for Denver by turning it over. You're in the playoffs, man. You might not have to play your A+ game to advance, but you're going to have to play an A game. And Buffalo just hasn't done that. Every postseason, they have played a game where when they watch the film, I'm sure that they just kick themselves. And yes, I do think that the officiating had a massive impact on the outcome of this game, but I also think that there were many opportunities the Bills had to put that game away before it even got to overtime.
Let me ask you a question about the Bills. As an organization, as a roster, obviously they're going to be having a new head coach this next season. In your opinion, how close are they? Because I watched Buffalo and they've got a human highlight reel quarterback in Josh Allen. They don't have great receiving weapons. When you're relying on Brandon Cooks to make key catches for you when he wasn't even on the roster at the trade, like what is this? Keon Coleman has been a healthy scratch at times. Shakir is their only really reliable target outside of their tight ends. And their defense is hit or miss. Coach, how close are the Bills? Are they really a viable contender? Or are we just kind of propping them up because of the quarterback?
No, they're a viable contender because of the quarterback.
True.
And if they get a coach in there who can get Josh Allen to play his best football in the biggest games and really get the entire roster to do the same, they have to upgrade the wide receiver room. They need some help at defensive back. But I mean, those are off-season moves that are all doable.
Yeah.
And with some smart off-season moves, Buffalo is right back there because of Josh Allen. I find it interesting. You mentioned Keon Coleman. I find it interesting that the guy who drafted Keon Coleman, Brandon Beane, got promoted to president of football operations, and he'll now be overseeing the hiring process. So that's interesting. McDermott becomes the scapegoat, but a guy who didn't always make the best draft picks gets a promotion. That's interesting.
Last thing about the Bills, and we're kind of crapping on the Broncos by not talking about them, but I think this is all about the Bills' loss and less about the Broncos' win. In your opinion, the Buffalo Bills, how big is this loss and the fact that we talked about this a lot? There was no Patrick Mahomes, no Lamar Jackson, no Joe Burrow in the postseason. The door was wide open. Clearly, that led to the dismissal of McDermott. But are we going to be looking back 5, 10 years from now and saying that was an opportunity that was missed?
Definitely. No doubt about it. They had to feel like this is our best path. And I think that's the reason Sean McDermott is out, because everybody recognized that. Brian Daboll is the name that you're starting to hear. And granted, McDermott's been fired for like a hot minute, but already you're starting to hear replacements being kicked around. And he and Josh Allen have a very good working relationship. Daboll was the Bills OC for several years when Allen was emerging. And a lot of people believe that it's just that getting Josh Allen on the same page with everybody in the coaching staff and a shared vision, et cetera, somebody feels comfortable working with will be the key. But who knows, right? You can only squander so many opportunities before you run out of them. And this is now 6 postseasons where Buffalo appeared to be in pretty good shape to get to the Super Bowl and hasn't been able to do it.
All right. And lastly, let's talk about Rams Bears. This was another exciting game, went to overtime. The Rams in a cold, snowy game in Chicago. The optics were perfect for playoff football. And this game was at everything that you would possibly want. The connection with Cole Kmet from Caleb Williams on 4th down to send the game into overtime. I got to ask you as a coach, were you thinking that Ben Johnson might go for 2 and for the win? Or do you think he was always going to play for overtime?
I was 100% convinced he was going for 2. I said it to my wife. I was like, oh, they're going to go for 2 here. They're going to go for 2. But I think the fact that they were 0 for 3 on 4th down, in plus territory, twice having gone for it inside the 10-yard line, and I know this is another topic we're going to talk about, I think that may have dissuaded him a little bit.
Okay, that's fair. But Matthew Stafford gets the job done, and he did not play a great game. But, man, when he had to make the key throws, he made the key throws. And I love that conversion they had with Puka Nacua on the final drive, which set up the field goal. They sent an all-out blitz. He knew exactly where to go with it. I can't say as defensively, how do you leave Puka Nacua of all guys to be the hot read there? But
yeah, there was an option route. He just released and he read the leverage of the corner and he broke opposite. That's kind of the tricky part about the zone blitz, is that you are relying upon the quarterback freezing for just a second, just long enough, because he thinks he's going to get man, he gets zone and he holds the ball just long enough and the rush gets home. But when you're running an option route, he's not holding the ball. He's throwing it to Puka Nacua 100%.
Yeah.
So he lets him get the ball out fast, and all Nakua's got to do is find the void, and obviously he's great at that.
Well, let's do the same question we've been saying with all these playoff games. What does this win or loss say about? Does this scream more about the Bears or more about the Rams to you?
To the Rams, they're so tough. They're so good. And the Rams are one of those teams, like, you have to beat the Rams because the Rams are not beating themselves. The Bills beat themselves, it seems like, every postseason. The Rams do not beat themselves. They're well coached on both sides of the ball. I thought Chris Shula called a great game. The 3 interceptions that Caleb Williams threw in that game were all the result of Williams expecting one thing based upon what he was getting pre-snap, and then throwing into a look that he was not expecting. That the Rams did such a good job of disguising coverage, moving their coverage. All 3 of those interceptions were perfect examples of, like, damn, I didn't think anybody was going to be there. And right. Boom, there they are. So great job by Chris Shula. Obviously, Sean McVay, everybody talks about his offense and how excellent it is. Matthew Stafford, the throw he made in overtime after that interception that gave the Rams the ball back for their game-winning drive, he made a throw on an outcut by Devontae Adams to the far sideline. That was covered about as well as you could possibly cover. The margin for error on that throw was 0. And he dropped it in horrible conditions to set him up for the game-winning field goal. Like, it just feels like Stafford will do that when he has to do it.
I will say this, though. You just waxed poetic about the Rams, and everything you said was 100% factual. If I'm a Bears fan, I'm pissed and I'm disappointed, but I'm also really encouraged by the head coach, by the quarterback. They've built a roster that seems to be capable of winning big games, and they didn't this year. We understand that, but ultimately, if you're a Bears fan, you have to be excited about the future. Yes,
Yeah, they were fun. I
they
was talking
were.
about this on my Monday podcast, my Monday morning game ball show. This is the first time in 40 years the Bears have been fun to watch. Watching Devin Hester run kickoffs back 20 years ago was cool. But other than that, name a time the Bears have been interesting. Since the Ditka Bears of the mid 80s. They haven't. So it's like, not only are they fun, but they're also under Ben Johnson. Like, they've got some bravado. They've got he's got a little beef going now with LaFleur and maybe with McVay, and he's talking some trash, and it's interesting. I don't know how it's all going to work out down the road, but I think that he has brought a little bit of that Dan Campbell swag that, he was around in Detroit with him to Chicago.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy to see what they do in the offseason, because I still think they obviously need some pieces still, but I don't think they're as far off as people might think, and that NFC North is going to be crazy. So real quick, I want to talk about the conference championship games next weekend. The early game is the AFC. Drake May and the New England Patriots go to Denver. We know that they're not going to have Bo Nix, but that defense in Denver is going to be really tough. What's your early thoughts on this game?
Obviously, New England's got the advantage because of the quarterback situation, but I would not be shocked if Denver wins. I mean, Sean Payton is a great football coach. He will have Jared Stidham prepared. He will tailor a game plan based around the things that Jared Stidham can do well. Whatever those are, I don't know. He hasn't thrown a pass in the NFL in 700 some days, but I'm sure Sean Payton knows. And they'll be in front of a raucous home crowd against an unproven New England team that has not been in this situation before. New England, again, we've talked about the beneficial schedule, playing well at home, but you got to go out to Denver. Denver's a hard place to play, whether it's the climate or the crowd. Funky things often seem to happen in that stadium. So it'll be very, very interesting, a very interesting game. I don't think this is the slam dunk win for New England that some people do.
Okay, fair enough. The early line is New England giving 5.5 points on the road, though, which is wild to me. Let's go to the nightcap, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. The Rams at the Seahawks, the rubber match, NFC West. They split the regular season series. What are your takeaways here?
So the first game, the Rams won by 2, and the second game, the Seahawks won by 1. And that, I think, tells you everything you need to know. This is a heavyweight fight, man. This is the two best teams in the NFC going to go toe-to-toe. I like Seattle just because I think they're the most complete team. But I would not, you can't put anything past the Rams. This is going to be, again, one of those matchups where the physicality is going to matter. The turnovers will matter. I don't know if you saw the numbers over the weekend, but in every single game in the divisional round, the winning team had a turnover margin of +2 or better. And that's significant. And so this will matter, who can protect the ball the best. But it's probably going to come down to the fourth quarter, and which team makes just those couple of key plays that swing the game in their favor.
All right, let's go back to the divisional round, though. Careless coaching decisions was kind of like a steady constant throughout the game. You mentioned Ben Johnson going for it on fourth down a lot. I feel like these analytic folk, and I don't know who they are. I don't know where these people, they talk about the analytics group. I'm not sure who they're referring to. To me, it just feels like it's a way for a coach to explain their aggressive decision making, but it's not always the right decision, in my opinion. As a coach, what's your take on some of these decisions that were made in the divisional round?
Yeah, I agree. All coaches have a chart that they keep with them during a game that tells them when to go for 2 versus kicking an extra point, and it just gives you all the math. Hey, if you're ahead by 4, you do this. If you're ahead by 5, you get whatever. I feel like it's gotten like that with fourth downs, that they just go to the chart. Oh, it's 4th and less than 3 from inside the opponent's territory. Go for it. And then they just do. Because Ben Johnson went for it 3 times inside LA's 30-yard line, twice inside their 10, and came away with no points in a game that they lost in overtime. In a game where you knew that points, because of the weather conditions, were going to be at a premium. I mean, this is not a 70-degree game in LA. This is
Right.
0-degree temperatures in the wind and snow in Chicago. If you can kick a field goal and get points, do it. That's just common sense. But I don't know, man. It just feels like you're married to these analytics, and the analytics drive the decision making, and that to me is careless.
Do you feel like a coach like Ben Johnson, and you speaking as a play caller, as a head coach in your time, would be able to answer this? Do you feel like Ben Johnson, because he's been so aggressive, and that's kind of like his MO, that he feels like he has to do that? Or is that just so woven into his makeup that that's just the only thing he thinks about?
I think he believes in it. I think he truly believes that this is the right approach, and he doesn't waver. And I give him credit for not wavering. But at least it's not haphazard. We'll go for it here, but we won't go for it there. Like there's a consistency to it. And obviously with the success that the Bears had this year, it's hard to question, but it just feels like in big moments, you need to kind of step back and take a better assessment of the situation. The 3 points here that we're going to squander if we don't get it might be more important to us than the 4 extra points we could potentially earn if we score a touchdown.
And even with those decisions, they had a shot to win it at the end, which is crazy. And even after they failed on the 4th down, which got knocked down, they got the ball back coming out of the 2-minute warning. They had a timeout in hand. And you're thinking, wow, like they're going to make this thing happen. It was a crazy game and a phenomenal finish. And unfortunately, it ends for a lot of these teams. Hey, only one team can win the Super Bowl. And a lot of these teams that aren't winning the Super Bowl are looking for head coaches. A whopping 10 vacancies have happened already this offseason. 2 of those have been filled already. John Harbaugh is going to the New York Giants. He signed a 5-year, I heard, $100 million deal. That is insane. Yeah. And Kevin Stefanski, your buddy's headed down to Hotlanta to take over the Falcons. Other than that, all other coaching vacancies are open, including the Buffalo Bills, who decided to fire Sean McDermott early on Monday morning, coming off of that divisional round loss in Denver. It just feels to me like there's a knee-jerk reaction going on with the coaching hires and fires in the NFL. Coach, what's your take on this carousel, which keeps on turning?
Patience used to be a virtue. Yeah. I think now it's kind of considered a waste of time. That your window to win is smaller than it's ever been. And now you see the idea of like stability and longevity being called into question. That at what point do we say we value what you do for us in the regular season, but if you can't get it done in the postseason, we're moving on. I mean, here, I'll read you this number. John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, Sean McDermott, all of whom have either stepped down or been fired. Combined regular season coaching record, 471 and 277. That's a tremendous regular season coaching record, 471, 277. But those 3 combined in the playoffs, 29 and 31. Right. So, Tomlin and Harbaugh won a Super Bowl each, but that's over a decade ago. None of these guys have been able to get back since. And I think that is really driving a lot of the decision-making, especially if you have the resources. You've got Lamar Jackson. You've got Josh Allen. You need to get us to a Super Bowl. And if you can't, there's enough hot young assistants, because that's the trend now. Hire the hot young assistant, that we're willing to take our chances with one of them.
So patience, I still believe, is a virtue, but I think there is something to being too patient. So let's look at the Steelers as an example. We can also tie in the Buffalo Bills. We could actually talk about the Bills first. So here you have McDermott, who's had a lot of success, but has never gotten prime Josh Allen past that proverbial hump into the Super Bowl. At what point is being patient or being too patient? Is there a line of demarcation in your brain, coach, where you're thinking, yeah, like it's probably time if this guy can't get it done? Does that exist with you?
Well, I think with the Bills, they lost 4 out of the last 5 seasons to Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Right.
And you could always kind of like make an excuse for that because, hey, we're right there. We just can't get past the best quarterback in franchise in the league in that 5-year period. But this was the year. This was the year, as we said earlier in the show, and not being able to get there when the field was wide open and you were competing against second-year quarterbacks like Bo Nix or potentially Drake May. I think that's when they said somebody else can get us there.
What about Tomlin? As a Steeler fan and someone that follows the Steelers, do you think, in hindsight, man, the Steelers probably should have parted ways with him earlier, or maybe not given him that contract extension? Or do you think that this was just the timing of it all and it's just the way that it is?
I don't think that way because the circumstances are different in Pittsburgh. One, that's not how the Steelers operate. Two, the Steelers invest less money in their coaching staff, their assistants, than just about any team in the league. So it's not like they had somebody in-house right there who they could promote. And then three, Tomlin's quarterback situation the past 4 seasons since Ben Roethlisberger retired has been less than ideal. So I don't know if anybody could have come in and had the success Mike Tomlin did with those quarterbacks. I mean, Tomlin was dragging the Steelers to the playoffs with bad quarterbacks. And that just doesn't happen much in the NFL. And then obviously once you get to the playoffs and everybody's good, then you get exposed because your quarterback stinks. But just to get them there, I don't know if anybody, there's probably very few coaches who could have done that.
Okay, let me ask you a question here. Which job, in your opinion, is more attractive? And this is obviously a vacancy. Baltimore Ravens or Buffalo Bills? Between those two, which is more attractive?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to go with Buffalo because I think that Josh Allen has more great football in him than Lamar Jackson. Okay. I just think Lamar Jackson, with the injuries, with the style of play, like when you come into Baltimore, you have a very specific system that you're going to need to run to take advantage of what Lamar Jackson does best. You go to Buffalo, the playbook could be bigger and broader, and the window, I think, is wider. So I don't think it's a huge difference, but if you gave me my choice between the two, I'd take Buffalo for those reasons.
Is Buffalo, in your opinion, the best vacancy that's out there right now?
100%.
Okay.
You get the league MVP.
Oh, I get it.
Playing at a league MVP level in a division that, while obviously New England is going to be here for a while, the Jets and Miami are not serious competitors. You look at the AFC North, the same team hasn't won the division in back-to-back seasons in 15 years?
They haven't won it in 3 years in a row since it started.
Okay.
In 2002. No team has won it 3 years in a row. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've got obviously a division that's very competitive on a year-to-year basis.
All right. Fair enough. Let's talk about some NFL officiating. I love to crap on the NFL officiating. Coach, what is a catch? Can you define that for me?
Nope.
Neither can the officials.
Jeff, I don't know what a catch is. I don't know what PI is. I don't know what roughing the passer is. What's any of that?
I don't know. How frustrating is it watching these games and you see these flags fly and you're like, okay, they're going to rule it that way. But then you're watching a game the next day and you're seeing the same thing and it's being officiated in a different way. I know Buffalo fans are livid with the interception that was ruled an interception and Brandon Cooks wasn't called. I think it was Brandon Cooks was on the receiving end of that play. And then they're even looking up the Aaron Rodgers in Baltimore when he caught the ball and they ruled him down by contact. Just that situation in and of itself, Coach, what was your takeaway from that call? Do you think they got it right?
No.
So you would have ruled him down by contact. That's a catch. Down by contact, Buffalo's ball 1st and 10.
Well, everybody talks about you have to complete the process of the catch, right?
Right.
What does that mean when you're on the ground and you've already been contacted? You're down. You're down. You have possession of the ball. You are on the ground. You have been contacted. You're down. There's no more football moves after that. You can't make a football move after you've already been tackled. Right. And that's the maddening part of it. And yeah, you can pull up the things that the comps in the past and you can see how, this time it's been A and that time it's been B. I'm not the conspiracy guy that some people are, including yourself. I don't believe in the script writers, blah, blah, blah. But I did hear something on Monday that bothered me. And I'm not here to spread rumors. I don't know if this is true. It hasn't been verified. But I heard that the league was very concerned about going into a long review on that play because they were already in overtime. The Seattle San Francisco game, which was supposed to kick off at 8 p.m., had already been moved back by 20 minutes. They now moved kickoff to 8:20, and that the league didn't want, because they knew that this potentially could be a long review. They didn't want that because it was going to jam up the schedule. So they went to the expedited review, and they very, very quickly moved on to the next play. If that's true, Jeff, that's criminal, man. That got Sean McDermott fired.
Damn it all to hell. Damn it all to hell if that's what it is, man. That's exactly. Well, here's the thing. I have no problem with them calling it an interception on the field. Mike Tomlin, who was on the competition committee when he was still a head coach, said over and over again to the media, we know as coaches, they will call it a turnover. Why? Because it's automatically challenged, and then they're going to look at it, and you're assuming they're going to get it right. So when they called it an interception, I was like, okay, this is what they do. They're going to call it an interception. They're going to take a look, and if they see it's a catch, they're going to overturn the call, and they're going to make it right. But like you said, they didn't really look at it, and they didn't really slow it down. And you got Gene Steratore, who's like, well, I think this is the right call, but you never really saw great replays of it. The still photos look really damning when it comes down to it. And you're just like, oh my gosh, if that's true, because this is my first time hearing about the whole bumping the San Francisco game back, which, hey, I understand that's part of it. Start the game. I understand you don't want overlapping games, but just start the San Francisco game. I would love it because I love conspiracy theories, but at the same time, I would obviously think Buffalo Bills fans have to be fuming. But it wasn't just that play. There were plays in all the games. And unfortunately, Coach, we've talked about this ad nauseum on the show. I don't know the answer. I don't know what it is. I don't know how they could try and define a catch any clearer than they do, and yet we still get it wrong. I don't have that answer, Coach. Do you?
I don't. And the consistency of the refereeing changed as well. So, you get this game where the refs have largely been uninvolved. They've let a lot go. And now suddenly in overtime, they start flagging Buffalo for PI on judgment calls. You could argue that the two PI penalties against the Bills that led to Denver's game-winning field goal should have been called pass interference. But the problem is they didn't call very, very similar plays like that earlier in the game. And now in overtime, they suddenly decided, oh, we're going to flag this stuff. And again, I don't believe in conspiracy theories, but here's one thing where the NFL has really shown itself to make mistakes. They will err on the side of business over the side of competitive balance or creating a good product on the field. They've done that time and time again. So if the word comes down from the league to the officials, we got to speed this up, I wouldn't be shocked if that was a reality.
Gosh, I'm just glad I'm not a Bills fan. That's all I'm going to say. Because if I was a Bills fan, I would be.
How much more can you take?
Yeah, they've been through a lot. Unbelievable. So, okay, let's finish up with a player profile. And I chose Jarrett Stidham as the player profile for this show. And this is just insane to me. When you think about the Denver Broncos, and let's pretend to be a Denver Broncos fan, you're elated. Somehow, some way, your team found a way to knock off the Buffalo Bills. You're headed to the AFC championship game, which you're going to host. And Sean Payton goes to the podium after the game and says, our quarterback is done for the year. He has a broken ankle, and he's going to be on the shelf. And we're going to have Jarrett Stidham ready to go. Jarrett Stidham, who in his career has, I don't know, 6 years, he's thrown for 1,422 combined yards. The last time he threw a regular season pass was in 2023, I believe, for the Denver Broncos. I don't know, Coach. What the heck?
I mean, that's about as deflating as it gets. 8 touchdowns and 8 interceptions that on his career resume there for Jarrett Stidham. But if you're Sean Payton, again, you have to find a way to construct your offense around what you feel he can do best. And I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew what that was. But whatever it is, he's got to lean into it. And here you see this happen sometimes. When the backup comes into a game the offense will move the ball for a little while because the other team doesn't have any film on this guy. They don't really know, well, what are they going to do with him? There is no film on Jarrett Stidham and Sean Payton together. Jarrett Stidham has not taken a snap in 2 years under Sean Payton. So New England's going to have no idea really what Denver wants to do. And that could play to Sean Payton's advantage. The best case scenario for the Broncos, script up some stuff that catches New England off balance early on, get a lead, and then lean into that great defense of yours to protect it. Because the longer Jarrett Stidham plays, the worse it's going to get as New England catches up to what Denver wants to do. So Denver's best bet, couple of splash plays early, build a little lead, hold on for dear life.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Basically, he's going to say, don't kill us. Just don't turn it over. If you don't turn it over, we have a shot. I know that I said earlier that the championship game spread is 5.5. The total is 41.5. Take the under. I'm just going to say right now, take the under. That's my prediction. So good luck to Jarrett Stidham as he gets his first start since 2023, and it's in the AFC Championship game. No pressure, big guy. No pressure.
Yeah.
So, all right, Coach, what's coming up on the call sheet?
Yeah, tomorrow's show, our Wednesday show, we're really diving in on the NCAA, the national championship game from Monday night, looking at Fernando Mendoza and the Raiders, and we're going to talk about what an interesting job opening that now is. Rumors of maybe Mike McDaniel to the Raiders. What would a Mike McDaniel, Fernando Mendoza pairing look like in Vegas? That would be interesting. So, that big wrap up, we're going to wrap the NCAAs and kind of look forward to what's next on Wednesday.
Love it. Make sure you check out his podcast, wherever you get your podcast, by searching the call sheet with Coach Kevin Smith or with Kevin Smith. And make sure you check out all of our Steelers coverage at the Steel Curtain Network, steelcurtainnetwork.com, wherever you get your podcast by searching Steel Curtain Network. Coach, thanks for your time, man. Enjoy the championship weekend. We'll talk next week. Take it easy.